Meet one of Kenya's finest journalists and a diligent scribe. He has mellowed our hearts with intriguing stories from Nairobi to Lagos.
It's a few minutes after 7:30 here, still lots of traffic, people still heading home. That is the situation in Lagos.
Gracing our screens with such poise, holding leaders to account and shining light on ills in society.
We have sifted through piles of bank statements, hours of secret recordings, financial audits, and incriminating footage from whistleblowers.
A towering trailblazer from the CNN Award to the prestigious Komla Dumor.
What are you looking forward to in terms of telling the African story?
It's not just about telling the problem, this happened, that happened, but what are some of the solutions?
Waihiga Mwaura talks to YouthBase.
Thank you so much, Waihiga Mwaura, for making time for our broadcast here on YouthBase.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Right. So, do you really get interviewed a lot? I know you don't normally used to asking the questions, but you get interviewed a lot.
Yes, no, let me think. I guess ever since COVID hit, I've been doing a lot more Zoom interviews, and I would say there are a lot more of personal group interactions where you get on a Zoom call and there's a whole group of people sort of there to ask you questions and stuff like that. So whereas in the past I would have gone to a physical venue to maybe do an interview with the moderator and then answer questions from the audience, nowadays I'm doing a lot of this.
Yeah, this is the new normal, so they say.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's really interesting and fascinating how you got to media in the first place, you know, from as a banker, then acting came along, then boom, you found yourself here. How was that for you?
Yeah, I guess everybody's journey is different, you know, and media is a very unique space because as and a company recently, an online company recently did a sort of survey around the journeys of various journalists that you know, and a lot of them came from different backgrounds, law, the sciences, etc. You know, for me, my first degree was in computer science, but even when I was in university, there was always an innate desire in me to tell stories. I remember one lecturer saying that I was more of a storyteller than anything else when I was there. So I guess some of us discover our real passion, you know, a bit later on down the road. But nevertheless, it's been an interesting journey. I think for me, it's taught me that, you know, whatever opportunities you find in your life, you know, it's up to you to decide how you want to take them, if you want to give them 100%, and what sort of legacy you want to leave at the end of the day. So yeah, I've done a few more things than the regular journalist. I've worked in a bank as a customer service agent, which is basically a fancy word for doing a lot of things in the bank as per the needs of the bank at that time. I've worked at a call center as a, I called it a glorified receptionist, answering calls on phones, using headphones just like this. Exactly. I've also been an actor, albeit for a very short time. I acted in a production whose name I will not mention here, lest people go and Google and try and find out as well. And then for the last 11 years, I've been a journalist, first a sports journalist for about 7 years. And then after that, I transitioned more into special reports. I've done some investigative journalism and also hosted one was more of a current affairs show and now a political show as well.
Wow, you really actually painted a picture of just who you are. So I really would want to know, at what point did you get the conviction that, you know, come on, you know, journalism is what I'm going for. You had this deep-seated conviction that, come on, guys, I have to go for this. And I remember you were sharing on some other platform that the time you're working at the bank, you were telling I think your boss there that I'm going to be on that telly someday.
Man, you really watched my older videos, haven't you?
Yes, I have. You have to do your homework.
I mean, let me be honest with you, right? So many young people go into the job market not necessarily with a mission or vision, but looking for work to earn a living because their expectations, their financial expectations, societal expectations, etc. So getting into the field for me was trying to tick many boxes. One was trying to figure out how I'm going to earn a living because you know, your parents have invested in you, you've gone to school. Surely you need to be able to earn a living to be able to repay them for what they've done. You know, society expects you to earn a living as well. So getting into the field of journalism for me was one, pressure from a few people who felt that I had what it takes. And one, you know, in particular, I remember one pastor in my church called Matthew Kelly, who really pushed me to get into media because he felt that I had the skill or the talent. But second of all, also was, you know, me trying to, you know, get a job, set up my own life, etc. My conviction for journalism itself, which is shining a spotlight on especially the ills in society and putting leaders to account, actually came in, you know, in a much deeper sense 2 or 3 years into the field. Because once you get into media, you realize there are different paths you can follow. For some, they've decided that you know, they will just you know, tell maybe ordinary stories, earn a paycheck, go home at the end of the day. But for me, 2 or 3 years into the field, I realized that journalism is a public service. In many ways, it is like politics, where you are accountable to the people who watch you, just like you're accountable to the people who vote for you when you become a politician. And so every day when I go to work, technically, I'm going to work on behalf of Kenyans who don't have a voice. And so I must endeavor to be their voice on that platform when I get that opportunity. It's a privilege to be on air. It's a privilege to be on TV. And you realize you won't be on TV forever. You've seen the media this year. So for the few moments that you have there, you must endeavor to tell that story, you know, in the appropriate way. And so for me, when I look at some of the stories I've done in the past, whether it is bulldozers for sanitizers that I did the other day, about those who are evicted in Kariobangi, whether it was the Mara heist that we did last year with Asha Mwilu, or Waiting on Health, or even a story I did back in 2016 called Rio Fiasco, which actually made me end up in court testifying as a state witness. Those are stories that for me were being done on behalf of those who don't have a voice.
Do you have a favorite?
And so my each story does different things to me. Bulldozers for sanitizers captured the grief of Kenyans during COVID, with fellow Kenyans being evicted. Mara heist for me was a proper production, and I want to give credit to one Asha Mwilu. We put together what I believe was you know, a small movie that, from a quality perspective, you know, could feature, well, not on Netflix, but I think we really put detail into it. And Rio Fiasco was my first real attempt at investigative journalism, working with leaked documents, etc. So Rio Fiasco, I mean, I had a few sleepless nights while I was working on it. So each of them ticks different boxes.
And you know what, by the way, one thing interesting with his career is, you know, it is very easy to admire the remarkable strides that you made, be it the stories you've done, the award-winning, the ones that you've done, you know, through a tweet or maybe a comment. But what really has it taken for you, you know, as you've scaled up the ladder day by day?
Well, well, the first thing is, I think any good journalist must want to do this beyond the money, okay? You know, putting your life on you know, at risk. When you think of some of the great investigative stories that have been done in Kenya, the journalists that were doing them were not doing them for the money and not necessarily for the fame, because remember, you know, these are dangerous stories. These are stories that could get you in trouble. These are some of them could get you arrested. So there must be something deeper than any of these normal impulses that is pushing you for them. So anyone who's going to be great in this field must have a deeper desire to be, I think the word is to be impactful. That is one thing, you know, that, you know, by the time I'm done, or when I leave this field, how will I have made a difference in people's lives? How will I have exposed the ills in society, etc.? You must have personal self-drive. You must have an inquisitive mind, you know. Sometimes you hear something, people think it's a rumor. So you could be in a newsroom, somebody says, I've heard 1, 2, 3, 4. People discuss it for a few minutes and then quickly forget about it. But something in your mind keeps telling you, you need to find out more about what so-and-so was saying. And so when you go home in the evening, you start Googling, you start putting facts together. You call a few friends or a few friends in the media field. You start asking them, have you heard about this? That calls for an inquisitive mind, and a mind that doesn't let go easily, you know. Because many of the stories of the great stories out there were discussed in large forums, and many journalists could have pursued them. But only one journalist at the end of the day decided, I must follow up on this as well. So those are some of the characteristics I think about. One, something deep in you must be pushing you to want to follow that story. You must be relentless. You must be inquisitive. And for me, I say also, because I my faith is a great part of who I am. It guides me.
Yes.
I believe in God's favor in getting leads and leaks that maybe other people did not get. Some things just work, and you wonder later on how did that happen?
Grace.
Amen.
Yes.
That's right.
So, one thing again, we all agree is the fact that apart from the ingredients that you said, is the media being itself a dynamic field, being a dynamic discipline. You have to be flexible, you have to be malleable, and I think yourself, you are all that personified, because you've transitioned from like a sports journalist, you've done politics, you've done human interest stories. How does that speak to, we witnessed the recent, laying off of hundreds of media personalities. How does that speak to, the progress of journalism towards, being adaptable and being flexible going forward?
Yes, that's a very good question. Human beings are rated on various things. The other day I was listening to a motivational speaker talk about, human beings can be classified with their IQ, their intelligence quotient, their EQ, emotional quotient, and a couple of other things as well. I think he even added a new one, which I liked, which is was it AQ, like adversity quotient? How your ability to be able to handle adversity, that is what will help you to survive in the world of COVID-19. People have been laid off. People are going through tough times. Only those who can adapt quickly will succeed, with this new normal that we find ourselves in. And can I say, I want to add today adaptability quotient. The ability of a human being to repackage, reinvent, rebrand themselves every couple of years is very important, because one, it keeps them from being bored or complacent. But secondly, it helps them to be able to maneuver through the ups and downs of life. I think we live at a time when the only thing that is constant is change. Someone was asking me the other day, they're a young journalist, what can we expect in the next 5 years? And I said, I can't tell you, but don't expect what you're seeing now. Expect something completely different. And so don't fall too much in love with where you are, because where you are could change overnight. And I guess at the back of your mind, you should always keep asking yourself, what else can I do? What else can I do? Like for example, during COVID, is there a new thing you started as a result of the challenges or opportunities that have come with COVID? One of the things that I started over the last 4 months is an online show with a feeling that in the future, every journalist, whether you're with a mainstream media house or not, will need to have an online platform, because that's where our audiences are moving. So now in March, we launched The Disruption, which airs every Thursday on the Citizen TV Facebook page, as an attempt for me to go beyond conventional linear TV and try and understand what people online are looking for, what they want to talk about, how they consume content. And I'm really learning a lot. Online is a completely different ball game from what we do on TV. And so every journalist out there must be asking themselves, in 2020, whether I have a job or not, what new thing have I started?
And this is something actually budding journalists like myself should really be having these skills right at our fingertips, because that is the new way of how things are done in this profession.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So one thing again now, as I told you earlier on, this program I run is called YouthBase, and one thing I'm always very passionate about is one thing that stops any young person is their imagination, right? And yourself being one diligent journal who has made strides. I mean, the 2012 CNN MultiChoice Africa Award, the 2015 Moamin Award, the Komla Dumor Award, the 4th recipient, the only guy to have won that. And then there's again the
I'm the second guy. I'm the first guy, but there's a second guy, Solomon Serwanja from Uganda.
From Uganda, but you're the first.
Was last year's. I'm the first Kenyan, first male.
First Kenyan, first male.
Exactly.
All right, and then there's the UBA Award, 2019.
Yes, that was last year.
When you're sitting there and you look at these awards, I mean, what are these lessons you've learned? What have they opened your eyes to? I know you had an amazing experience back in London there. What has it opened your eyes to?
Man, let me tell you, awards are an interesting thing, right? First of all, I think awards are a signal to you that you're on the right path. You're doing something right, and I never take that away. And of course, they motivate you, in your path. If you feel that things haven't quite gone the way you wanted, at least when you win an award, for that one day you can go home and sleep thinking, I'm doing something in my career, I'm doing something in my profession, and something that has stood out. But awards are also sometimes I call them not an Achilles heel, but they come with their fair share of challenges, because your mind then begins to ask you whether you can win another award or whether that was the best that you've ever done. What was that your glory year? And so I remember telling a friend once, Lupita Nyong'o won an Oscar.
Yes.
What are the chances of winning another Oscar? And I'm sure in Hollywood, that's the buzz, that you don't just win one, you win two or you win three. So I think awards can be good because they can challenge you to go for more, but also, they can become a bit of a trap, because some people now will just chase awards. As I said, for me, I've decided to chase, not necessarily to chase, but to pursue impact. What is challenging Kenyans? What is challenging people? What are people trying to hide? I've decided I'm going to do my best with the resources that I have available to be able to do that. But yes, awards do make a difference in a journalist's life. I think when you look at the John Allan Namus, when you look at even people like Asha Mwilo, some of them have won some of the biggest awards in the world, and their work till today reflects the level of journalism that they practice at. And it doesn't mean that journalists who haven't won awards are not being impactful. Not at all. The world works in different ways for different people. But, for me, they have made a difference in keeping me motivated.
Mm-hmm. That is spot on. Now, being a journalist myself, and I've been able to document a few stories here, and I've seen the impact of good journalism when it comes to, sparking necessary debate, sparking and igniting new perspectives and changing the views of people, and, sparking the desired change. And one thing I really picked from, I watched some interview of you back, I think you in London at that time, after the Komla Dumor, the 3-month. And you talked about something is called solution-focused journalism. Now, I wanted to contextualize that and ask you, I mean, is that something we've seen its fruits here in Kenya, and is there much that that should be explored rather?
Yeah, that's a good question. So solutions-focused journalism was something very new to me in 2018 when I got to London. And even out there, it's still not mainstream. It's still very much a niche field being practiced by few journalists. Have I seen much of it since I came back to Kenya? Not too much, but I can say that I'm probably seeing more of it with the startup media houses that are being set up by journalists who have either retired or left mainstream media, because they are not chasing day-to-day stories. Now, it's very hard to do solutions-focused journalism on a day-to-day basis. Solutions-focused journalism is done more of long-form features, mini documentaries, etc. Because it takes a lot of contextualism and follow-up, for lack of a better word. So it's not just talking about a war between communities, but also should those communities reconcile, it's telling the story of how they reconciled. Okay, so that you don't just highlight the problem, but when solutions do come about, you also highlight those solutions as well, because it also gives hope. And Africa, as I keep saying, the African continent, Kenya needs more investigative journalism. We can't run away from that. So much to expose, but also needs more solutions-focused journalism. It needs more people talking about the good things that are happening. So have I seen a lot of it in the country? No, but for example, at Citizen TV, we used to have a segment called Your Story. We still have it, but of course, COVID has come in and interfered with the way things, some of the segments that we were running. But Your Story was very good because a lot of the Your Stories were solutions-focused journalism. I also know that there are people who are running online platforms that are talking about a lot of solutions as well. So yes, we are seeing more and more diversity of stories, and with that comes more solutions-focused journalism. But I'm sure people out there will still say it's not enough. More needs to be done to not just highlight the problems, but also people who are working on solutions and the solutions that are working.
Yeah, indeed. Now, yourself, Waihiga, you're a trailblazer. Do you have people you look up to?
Oh, absolutely. In journalism, I would say that I guess in terms of interviews, everybody talks about Mehdi Hassan. He is excellent at Al Jazeera.
Al Jazeera, yeah.
Yeah. He has done some amazing interviews. I mean, last year, in 2018, I had the chance to meet Stephen Saka of Hard Talk and grab a cup of coffee with him. He did give me quite some advice as well. Someone I look up to. In terms of telling good stories, I could say the team of journalists that work on PBS Frontline, you can find that out on YouTube, and 60 Minutes Australia. So it's not just one person, but 60 Minutes Australia, PBS Frontline, and I think The Vice. These are all online platforms.
Oh, The Vice,
yeah. I mean, that storytelling is classic. That is where I hope to get to one day.
There's again, I don't know if you've seen Unreported World.
No, I haven't, but I'll check it out after this. Unreported World.
Very dope storytelling, on point. It hijacks your attention from beginning to the end.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. So again, you're one person again who's very passionate about inspiring young people. I was watching a video of you're preaching in Eldoret here. That is my home right now. I'm in Eldoret. So I was
okay.
Yeah. So you really I've seen you doing a couple of things, good stuff with young people, mentoring and all that. Is this something that you draw satisfaction from?
Oh, absolutely. I think I remember one of my prayers when I was looking to get into media was that, and the talk out there usually is when a person gets into media, they get lost in the world of fame and the glitz and glamour, etc. Which the reality is it can be very different. Once you get in there, you realize things are not as they seem or as people paint them out to be. One of the things that I was keen on was that for those who gave me a stepping stone to get to where I am today, I must do the same for others. And so I will really turn down an opportunity to speak to young people, to motivate them, to challenge them, to answer their questions, and I dare say to learn from them. Because sometimes you meet a young person who will ask you something and you go away thinking, wait a minute, this young person knows something that I don't know, and I need to think about what they're trying to raise as well. So yeah, I think there's a firm belief out there that we don't live for ourselves. Yeah. That you are put into this world to be of help to someone as other people have been of help to you. And so don't forget that, because I think it keeps you grounded, it keeps you focused. It also helps you to sometimes in forums like that, story ideas have come up. You also realize what people are going through out there as well. So it keeps you get out of the bubble of journalism and get to talk to people and hear what their issues and challenges are, and it's important to always do that. It keeps you grounded, if I can just add that.
There's something you mentioned there, and I want to pick it kidogo as we get to the tail end of this, about sometimes with this profession, sometimes jina inakuwa kubwa sana, but you're there, you're battling expectation. You don't want to be seen moving around much. You need to grab an Uber here. You need to be somewhere, which I really find it as a challenge, because especially these young journalists who are getting in there, you want to live up to, I don't know, how can you say about that?
Yeah, well, I think the saying is cut your coat according to your cloth. The circumstances in which each of us came from, varies. So you might be working with a fellow journalist in a particular media house, but they come from a very rich family and you don't, and yet you're trying to compete with them as well. But I think the challenge with journalism is that your successes are trumpeted, and so are your failures. Yeah. And so, journalists, especially those who rise to, high levels of fame. And in Kenya, we really aren't there yet. In America, for example, journalists negotiate some really big contracts, and those are big stories for blogs and that sort of thing. So-and-so is renewing their contract for XY number of dollars and that sort of thing. I mean, that's a whole new reality of celebrityhood for journalists.
Yeah.
But I say this: stay grounded, because you won't be on TV forever. You all have an expiry date, you know. For every time you're on TV, there's a younger person in a media school with greater talent than you, who is just waiting for the opportunity to come in. And one day they will come in, and your bosses might ask you to retire. Just like some of the greats were asked to retire one day, they were told, you know what, your show is good, it's been doing great, but we want to put some new blood into it. And so, you know, you need to go home. So always remain aware that the end will come, you will have to leave. And if you've cut your networks, if you're operating at a, you know, unsustainable level, you're going to have a problem, you know, readjusting back to life. And so that keeps me focused. And I'm also aware that journalism has phases. If you look at the journalists that were prominent 10 years ago, you know, very few of them are still in the field now. So that tells me that in 2030, now that we're in 2020, the media landscape could be very different. So I must be aware of that. It must shape how I operate, you know, for sustainable life. I think of the governors who won the first term and then lost. Man, let me tell you, you go from being a small president to a raya.
Nyumba Kumi chairman.
Nyumba Kumi chairman. How, you know, being called former governor, how is it adjusting, you know, and that sort of thing? And we interview a lot of these people. So every time I'm in an interview like that, I always ask myself, what can I learn from this person so that I don't make the same mistakes they did? And when the time to transition comes, because we all have to transition one day, that I will be able to do it in as smooth a way as possible.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So as we just wind up, Waihiga, I want to get your message of advice to, you know, a Kenyan youth, a Kenyan dreamer who wants to explore their boundless beauty of their imagination. They want to conquer, they want to make feats as well. So just tell them something.
I mean, wow, I could tell them 50 things. What's coming to mind right now is, so I'm trying to find a way to categorize my thoughts properly. Opportunities don't come every day. So when they come, you must be mentally ready to take them on, even if you're not ready to take them on. Okay? So sometimes I feel that people shy away from challenges because they're afraid they would make it. But sometimes it is better to have tried and failed than to have never tried at all. That's one thing I'll tell a young person. 2, don't wait for the time to tarmac to begin to actively look for a job or to begin to actively improve yourself. You know, so COVID-19 has disrupted school for everyone. And I remember I was speaking to some graphic designers the other day and telling them, by the time COVID-19 is sort of, we are flattening the curve. I don't think it will go away anytime soon. What new things will you have done at home, especially for example, graphic designers who now have the skill and ability to effectively work from home, that will make the time that was lost count? Okay, don't wait for graduation day. Don't wait for the time when a company says, send us your portfolio of work that you've done. You need to be actively developing stuff now, because the reality out there is there are too few jobs and too many people trying to get those same jobs. And I guess the other challenge is not everyone will be an entrepreneur, right? So in the midst of that balance, I need to keep asking myself, how can I be the best at what they do? How can I keep improving myself? How can I set myself apart from others and what others are doing? But within that setting yourself apart, also remain true to who you are. Some people, I think they go too far in this whole setting themselves apart thing, and they, you know, make all sorts of blunders, you know, to try and stand out. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying the ability to keep improving, I think, is what will make a difference at a time like this. You know, out there they say fake it till you make it. You know, I don't believe fake it till you make it is the right way to put it, but many of the opportunities that have come my way, in many ways, I was not ready for them. But you know, with the help of God, with the right advice from friends, I stepped up to the challenge, and with time, you begin to grow into those shoes. So the shoes maybe were not yours. The shoes were big for the place that you were going to. I remember when I was making the transition from sports to politics, the number of nights I spent studying to be able to catch up, studying the Constitution, studying our political framework, studying, you know, political trends, etc. You know, talking to political analysts out there to understand what's happening. I felt that I had to do twice the research of any regular political journalist because I had so much catching up to do. So, what am I telling young people today? You have to figure out how to stand out. You have to figure out whether it's, more research, smarter solutions. The world of today is calling for that. And I guess in 2020, with everything that's been so disrupted, some opportunities have come up that may not have been available in the past. Capitalize on them. I know some opportunities have been taken away for now. There are fewer jobs and that sort of thing. We have all been called to think harder this year. And so finally, don't give up. I'm getting messages from young people saying they're giving up, their chosen career, they are not sure. A young person messaged me the other day saying, how will I get into media? You guys, we're seeing everyone is just reducing. And I really try to encourage them, don't give up. You never know. And if you give up, then, you will have nothing to show in case you ever call to show for something to be able to get a job or opportunity as well. So those are some of the thoughts I would have to young people at a time like this, a time when we're all trying to understand what the world has become and how to, better adapt.
Wow. Those are really rich insights you've shared there, Waihiga. And really, nothing more I can add than to just say thank you for making time. And yeah, hopefully many people out here are going to be inspired.
Thank you so much, Rono. I really appreciate it. Thanks for this opportunity. And wishing you all the best. I like what you're doing, man. Maybe this is your way of innovating during this time. Keep going.
Asante sana.
Keep going, brother. And thank you for being patient, waiting for us to do this.
Asante.